Peggy 16.
Due to the Allied success at D-Day and the breakout of Normandy with Operation Cobra, the German forces were ordered a counter-offensive known as Operation Lüttich. Launched on the 6th of August 1944, this operation was planned to cut off the US spearheads and reach the coastal Avranches by sending a large panzer force. The German plan was to isolate both elements of the 1st and 3rd US armies. To represent this significant operation in the European theatre, we chose the famous battles at Mortain, especially the bitter fighting around the town of Mortain itself and Hill 314.
Because Hell Let Loose maps are pretty large and require more than one level designer at a time, it can be quite easy to become overwhelmed in blocking out the spaces. To address this issue, we break down the map into sections, and within those sections we establish a theme. We ask ourselves questions that cater to our three map design pillars, such as meaningfulness. What is the main point of this section? Recognisable. Is the space identifiable compared to other areas? Believable. Does the space make sense? Is it believable? The concept of theming also allows us to decide how to approach the transitional areas in between the capture points. An overall theme is useful not just for us designing the space, but for the end resulting player experience too. It helps with navigation and orientation. Here are a couple of examples. For Hotel de la Poste, the theme was pretty straightforward. It's an urban town area and it connects to other areas of the maps via roads leading in and out. We know from history that only specific parts of the town were bombed, so we tell this story in the areas that contained rubble and destroyed buildings. This is why the area near the church is blown to bits with destroyed buildings and streets littered with rubble, while the nearby outskirts remain fully intact. Rural spaces like the farm capture points are straightforward too. The theme is that of a standalone farm, so the space should include thematic layouts that support the believability of the space, such as farm equipment, storage, and fields.
To help create believable spaces within a Hell Let Loose map, we undergo rounds of research as a wider team and within our disciplines on more niche points. Within design in particular, we study battle plans, tactical maps, orders of battle, and stories from both historians and soldiers' individual accounts of the battle. Together, these resources help immensely when designing the individual capture points around the map, giving us a knowledge base to pull from when creating those 15 locations. One such example of this in Mortain is the US Southern Roadblock. According to battle maps, the area was known as the Cross of the Seven Hearts and was a roadblock put up by US soldiers which was overrun, allowing some of the Axis forces to break through. Tying this back to Mortain in game, the hard capture area is placed exactly where the roadblock was in real life, and the area is themed to illustrate a past skirmish having taken place in the area with scattered cover and destroyed vehicles. In our research, we often identify unique or interesting stories that could facilitate an engaging capture point theme, but its location either falls outside the playable space captured by the 2K×2K grid, or its exact location in real life is unknown. When it comes to points like this, we weigh up the pros and cons of slightly adjusting these whereabouts from their real world locations to give a more eclectic view of the entire battle, rather than solely what would be within the captured playable space. The destroyed German convoy is an example of this from Mortain. We found stories detailing an artillery bombardment from gun emplacements on Hill 314 towards a German convoy heading eastwards. While we couldn't track down the exact location of where the convoy was destroyed, it was thought that a capture point detailing this story would be great to have within the bounds of the map. Our research doesn't stop after the initial planning phases of the map either. Occasionally there are particular sources that provide conflicting information, and it takes us time to decipher what's truly accurate. Those players that took part in the PTEs we previously had on Mortain may have noticed the name change of the two farm capture points. This was due to us finding multiple sources that had differing locations for the farms we had originally identified those as. While it is accurate that farms were in the locations as seen in game, research led us to discover that they weren't the exact farms we thought they were late in development, and so we adjusted their names to remain authentic.
Once the theme is established and a rough layout is defined, we hand the map over to the artists to add in those incredible little details. This process continues back and forth between level design and art throughout development as we tweak and tune the spaces based on playtests and feedback. We gather the feedback from external events such as the PTEs, but in the short term we also gather a lot of feedback from weekly internal playtests with our departments. Here is an example of how Les Aubry Farm evolved from early blockout to the final map.
Mortain has been a special piece of work for us as a team to bring this significant battle map to the Hell Let Loose community. It has allowed us to push the boundaries of what is achievable in Hell Let Loose, and is a massive team effort of both level design, art, audio and various other support and game development. Ultimately, Operation Lüttich failed. The Allied forces were prepared for the German counter-offensive, and the Germans became bogged down in a bitter and costly stalemate. By moving so many of the German forces to Mortain and away from the Caen section, this would lead to the near destruction of many of the German forces in the Falaise pocket. The end result? The end of any result of any German victory in the Battle for Normandy.